Where are all the polls? Where are all the DNC approved polls? Hi, thanks for watching today. I want to talk about the lack of polls that are DNC approved for this upcoming Democratic debate. You see, something very interesting has happened. Over the past few months, each month, there are less and less DNC-approved polls being published. And the result of that is certain people are not making the stage. It seems intentional, and I'm going to get into that. Let's look at the article that I have for you today. So here's the story from the Washington Examiner, January 2nd, 2020. Opinion. And at the top of the page, in red, in all caps, they have opinion to let you know that this is someone's opinion. This is what journalism should be. They should let you know when there's an opinion and when there's just a regular article. So congrats to the Washington Examiner for doing that. Other newspapers should follow suit, but they don't. But good on them for doing this. Polling drought, screwing over Democratic candidates seeking the debate stage. A national poll qualifying for the January 14th presidential debate has not been released in 2 weeks, and an early state qualifying poll hasn't come out since November. With just a week left before the final polling and donor deadline, only 5 2020 candidates have secured a spot on the debate stage. The Democratic National Committee refuses to do anything about it at the peril of its own voters. Now, right now, the stage includes Joe Biden, who commands the field with nearly 30% of vote nationally, Bernie Sanders with 20%, Elizabeth Warren, who's around 15%, and Pete Buttigieg, who's plateaued around 10%, and Amy Klobuchar, who polls around 3 or 4% nationally, but double that in Iowa. What the stage doesn't include is Andrew Yang, who often outperforms Klobuchar, Tom Steyer, who outperforms both of them in early states, or Michael Bloomberg, who outperforms Klobuchar, Steyer, and Yang nationally. It also doesn't include Tulsi Gabbard either, and she has performed better than Klobuchar nationally a couple of times, but I guess she didn't make the article. Oh well. The 2019 debates were an audition for a role on the primary ballot. This year's debates are meant to showcase the actual options for voters to choose in a matter of months or even weeks. Any debate stage that doesn't include candidates whom the country actually have to choose from when pen meets paper at their primaries doesn't do justice to the electorate. And that is absolutely true. If you're having debates and you don't include all candidates that are viable, and I think candidates that have, a few percent in national polls and in early states, they have a chance. And the DNC is keeping them off the stage. By keeping them off the stage, they don't get coverage in the press. People don't know about them. People think that they dropped out. Julian Castro dropped out of the race today or yesterday. Most people didn't even know he was still running because he hadn't made the last few debates. And so people just thought he was done running. Because he couldn't make the debate stage, his funding dries up, and he's not getting stories written about him, and he has to drop out. He's no longer a candidate. And by limiting that, the DNC is choosing who they want to present as their candidates. And they're not letting the people choose who the people want as their candidates. And that just reeks of corruption. Let's get back to the article. So later it says, but Yang and Steyer are polling better than a qualified candidate in some crucial early states, and in the case of the former, nationally. And also, Gabbard also has polls higher than Klobuchar as well, and she's been left out of this article, but I digress. Let's keep going. But the DNC's 15 approved pollsters, which don't include some of the most accurate in the business, haven't reflected that. It's not the DNC's fault if approved pollsters haven't done more early state polls, but it is kind of Nancy Pelosi's fault for making pollsters more interested in impeachment than the Iowa caucus. Now, I disagree with the author on that point. It is the DNC's fault for not making the approved pollsters put out approved polls. That should have been a requirement of the approved pollsters. Oh, you want to be an approved poll? You have to guarantee that you'll put out, let's say, 2 national polls a month. That should have been part of the deal. But that didn't happen. And it concludes here, candidates had 26 polling possibilities to qualify for the December debate, 32 for November, and nearly 40 for October. It makes sense that January would allow slightly fewer, but right away, this month's debate has only had 17 polls qualify. At this point, Yang and Steyer's exclusion from the debate is random, not reasonable. And the author concludes, the DNC is allowed to operate as it wishes, but keeping legitimate candidates on primary ballots off the debate stage does a disservice to those very voters it claims to serve. And I disagree with the author on this point as well. There's no reason to have less polls now than a few months ago. That makes no sense. Suddenly we're less interested in politics? We're less interested in the presidential race as it goes along? No, we should be more interested in the presidential race as it goes along. We should have more polls, but we have less. I addressed some of these issues in a video I did a few months ago about DNC's polls just being a garbage fire. You can check that out. I will leave a link for that video at the end of this video. But it's just wrong that we do not have polls so that legitimate candidates that people are donating millions of dollars to, are excluded from the debate stage. That doesn't do well for fans of those candidates. If they're excluded from the debate and they lose, they end up not doing well and they end up not getting the nomination, you need to get those people to jump on board with whoever is the nominee. And if you feel like your candidate was cheated, and frankly, it feels like they're cheating some of these candidates, it's going to be hard to get those people on board to vote in the general election. What the DNC is doing, they're rigging it for their candidates, and it's going to backfire. But that's just my thought on this. Let me know yours in the comments. Peace.